Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm Mike Quartararo.
I'm Jeff Hirvela.
This is Mind Matters, breaking the silence in legal spaces. This is brought to you by ACEDS and MCG in an interesting collaboration, which we'll continue to talk about. This is a space where we will share real stories and talk openly about physical and mental well-being, addiction and recovery, and of course, some resources to deal with all of this. Jeff, what's your state of mind? How are you feeling?
Hey, Mike, feeling pretty good today. I'll share quickly because I want to hear about you since you missed our last episode. But for me, real quick, I had a major accomplishment. I finished another one of my ultra runs. It was the Bigfoot 200. It was a 200-mile distance, the first time ever attempting that. And I'll talk a little bit with our guest about the pros and potential cons of doing these distances. I'm 2 weeks removed, still feeling a little bit fatigued. But I think when I do these runs, it kind of puts life in perspective. It helps me deal with things that I'm going through, kind of right-sizing everything in my life, including my own ego and my own self-importance, which is always good. Plus, I get the benefit of like that accomplishment and like feeling good and sharing that with friends and family. So, Mike, how about you? Last time we had the show, you missed it for a back. How's it doing?
Yeah, it was, they say things happen in threes, right? So,
Yeah.
so this is my third. I can't have anything else happen to me. I suffered a little setback. My sciatic nerve really just flared up, and I couldn't walk. I was literally grounded. The only comfortable position I could find was sitting, and I tried to go down to ILTA, and I lasted about 2 days, and I just said, let me get out of here. But we're doing better. Physical therapy is helping, and it's improving. So hopefully this is not a long-term problem, but mentally I feel fine. Physically, I'm still hobbling around a little bit, but we're getting there.
Yeah. I mean, there's the mental like association with that where you're limited from doing the things that you usually do. You're usually a very big presence at ILTA. You're usually able to be more engaged. So let's not diminish that too. Like there is that, I'm sure it'll be good to get back to things you like doing and stick with the physical therapy. I'm a big proponent of physical therapy.
Absolutely. 3 times a week. I'm a pretty active person. I cut my own grass still, and I had to pay somebody to do that. It was kind of annoying. Because nobody takes care of your stuff the way you want it, right? So that's why I've always done it, and it's.
We'll dive into that sentiment later.
Yes. So why don't we introduce our guest today?
Happily, and I'm proud to help do so. So Shana Pederson is our guest today. I knew her from starting with my company. She started Life Preservers as a charity raising awareness, education around human trafficking around 2009 when I started with my current company as well. And I've always known her to be a big proponent of human rights and the charitable awareness around that. We reconnected, we stayed in touch, but we reconnected recently about ultra running. Turns out she has become a huge runner herself and is easing into the ultra running scene. Not easing, she's full force. She's now an ambassador for different groups within the field. And so I'm excited because we share that passion. Also want to talk about our journeys to getting there. So I guess with that, why don't we bring her in?
Bring in Shana. So for those who don't know, Shana's a senior manager at Morgan Lewis in the eData Group. She's also founder and chair of the Life Preservers Project. Full disclosure, I work with her on the Life Preservers Project. She has a life of her own. I don't control it. And she's here to talk about her journey in physical and mental well-being. And with that, why don't we start off? Jeff, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I guess it would just be great to hear, how you got into the service related work around Life Preservers, that critical like project you've started, and then how that relates to your journey recently with ultra running as well. And we can just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And Q, of course, always downplaying his role. He is the president of Life Preservers Project and very much my mentor and guide in many things beyond just Life Preservers, but in life and work. So Life Preservers Project started, I guess we're going to be going on to 16 years soon. I had always been aware, I know, time flies. We can scratch 5 years for COVID. So I started, I filed for our 501c3 and New York State Corp in 2009. I'd known that human trafficking, both labor trafficking, sex trafficking, has been something I've been keenly aware of growing up in New Mexico, having family members who were labor trafficked in my extended family from Mexico into the States. And just generally speaking, it's an issue in New Mexico that I'd always been keenly aware of. And it was becoming apparent that in the US, the narrative around human trafficking at that time was very othering. It was very much about other parts of the world, and almost exclusively about sex trafficking in like Thailand, and these like sort of sensationalized movies and narratives around it that really ignored the fact that this was a problem here in the States that we need to address. And furthermore, a problem in the Northeast region that we needed to address is two of the major ports of entry and who some of the users were. So we made a concerted effort to bring in the legal community, which all of us who formed the Life Preservers Project and continue to be a part of Life Preservers Project, we're all in the legal community for the most part, to have that narrative, to both have the legal community maybe have some responsibility for the funding and educational pieces of helping to ameliorate this problem, but also there's cases of using these services within our industry, and how do we talk about that? And that's how it sort of started. I also have an art degree, and while I'm not a licensed art therapist, I purposefully am not a licensed art therapist. I do have the education. I started working somewhat by accident with GEMS about 10 or 12 years ago, teaching art up there, and then some other of the houses, halfway houses in New York. And that's where for the first time I had to really address, you don't just go in and teach art, right? You have to have trauma-informed training in order to do that. And the trauma-informed training is certainly, it's really about mental health and about wellness and about recovery and about how do you work with these individuals who have these compounded acute traumas, right? There's not a lot of research around that. So when I was at Seton Hall, my capstone and thesis were very much about teaching art and working with human trafficking survivors and what that kind of trauma-informed education could look like, and what the trauma-informed support for human trafficking. There's a lot around domestic violence, there's around sex assault, but there's not a lot around these compounding traumas. And in that time, I also started realizing that while working with the survivors directly, though I'm not a therapist, they are telling me their stories, I'm around them. These individuals may be in the halfway house or in the drop-in shelters today, and then they're not tomorrow. And we all give each other knowing looks. We very much know why they may not be in. Either they've aged out of the system. It's all run by child services, so they may have aged out of the system. And mazel tov, they're off doing great things, and a lot of them aren't. I mean, there's partners in a law firm that went through that program. There's someone at big financial institutions. There's lawyers, doctors, teachers, musicians. All these, for the most part, survivors are these incredibly strong human beings that, once they're given the opportunity to heal and grow, become superstars because of the resilience that they had to build up to even go through the life. But some of them go back to the life. I started experiencing what's called secondary trauma. And before I got into ultra running, and I'll sort of talk about how this kind of dovetailed, I knew the secondary trauma is hard to treat. It's hard to explain. It's hard to get therapy on. But I also said to myself, oh, you have a lot of training. You know what CBT looks like and reframing, and you can kind of take care of this yourself. And I spent a lot of time trying to self-treat, which just compounds the problem, makes it worse, and makes me useless for our clients and survivors, and just basically even running the nonprofit. At that time, as I started recognizing that during 2022, 23, I also started getting into trail running. And the trail running community is very open about recovery, about mental health struggles, about, really talking through wellness, what that looks like. I mean, a big part of the physical wellness and the mental wellness go together because we are pushing our brains, minds, and bodies to an extreme. I mean, I'm not running at the level that Jeff is. I'm not doing 200 milers, but you start to hallucinate. You're on exhaustion. You are purposefully elevating your fight or flight responses and chemicals, the cortisol, the endorphins, to levels that are dangerous. For a number of hours, the body is not used to doing. The body doesn't know how to deal with that. So at the end of these major races, generally anything over about 50 to 60 miles, and sometimes even less, it can happen with marathons, your body crashes and the chemicals crash. And so there's an actual chemical depression that many, many runners experience. And then if you DNF, God forbid you DNF, there's a whole guilt and thing behind that. That means do not finish. And so that conversation, coupled with the fact that I knew I had secondary trauma, knowing that I'm here doing this work with Life Preservers Project that very much focuses on the wellness and healing of these survivors, right? We're raising money and awareness about about the problem, but we're also looking at raising money, giving microgrants to organizations that provide them with this wellness thing. I wasn't taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And so at all. And so those conversations started to really hit. And Kim Levinsky, who is the director of SOT Squad, had been really talking about it a lot. SOT Squad is the trail parties that I majority run in here in New York and New Jersey, and they're part of the New Jersey, New York Trail Conference. Kim had been struggling herself with her mental health issues, her anxiety and depression, whilst filming what's a movie called The Long Path, which is following her on the long path from Albany to Bronx, which is a 300 and some odd mile run. She's the first woman to attempt it and at the fastest pace. And as she's filming that, she starts to really talk about her mental health, and it becomes sort of a homage to ultra running and healing and mental health and the openness of that conversation. And she started talking about bigger than the trail during that time. And all of our races started having bigger than the trail signs. And so I started talking to her about it. And she said, here's the ambassador link. And so I applied thinking I would never get it. And I became a 2025 ambassador for Bigger Than the Trail. And what we're doing is we're raising money for individuals who cannot afford mental health services, whether it's they don't have insurance or their insurance doesn't cover it, or there's not in-person or online platforms that they can access. They need some sort of extra resource to access this financially. So Bigger Than the Trail raises money. And it's not just for trail runners. Anyone can access these 8 sessions for 8 sessions with either Calmary or BetterHelp. Or I think if you're I want to say it's Arizona, you can do in person. And through that, I said to myself, and this is how I got into getting I knew I needed therapy, but I hadn't started therapy. I said to myself, if I'm going to raise funds for Calmary and BetterHelp, I should probably try these platforms out. So I did it as if I'm testing software because I'm in e-discovery, right? I did like I was vetting. Let me not sell something unless I know if it works. And so I mind gamed myself into Calmary, and I got an extraordinary therapist, Sherry, through Calmary, and was able to finally address the fact that I too needed to consider my own mental health and also be able to talk a little bit more openly with my family. After a big race, after 50K, I crashed out because I did a 50K marathon and a half. I crashed out. It happened again this year. I did 50K, a marathon and a half. I crashed out. And then just dealing with life, some personal things that have been pretty heavy and, gesturing broadly at the world. So it was an interesting path in that I've been involved in the conversation about mental health and wellness and recovery in this really, and there's one other organization that a activist organization where we also talk about it. And there's a lot of mental health and addiction problems there. So that's been a narrative. It's been a trail throughout my life, but I myself wasn't availing myself of the things necessary until somehow the trail running community was like, "What, we're going to do this." And Kim kind of pushed me into it, right? And so that's how it all kind of tied together, right? I was seeing it and being a piece of it. And we talk about this a lot at Life Preservers. I mean, I have to say, as a board, as a family, we talk about these things a lot. So it is uniquely interesting that it didn't occur to me to do it myself until I was vetting it doing it as if I were looking at software.
Well, it's interesting. So many things, so many great points come up. And I think just to underscore, it's easy. I saw you just outside observer as someone that was of service and doing these amazing things. She has it figured out. clearly she knows her life is clearly like in order because she's doing so much good for other people. And I think there's like a tendency, I know when I watch people on social media, my first thought is, oh man, they got it all figured out. Look at them telling me what to do. Look at them having the answers. And that comment you made about just feeling useless for others, like that's a real pain. That's like that, like years of service, but like not giving yourself like that attention and that like feeling of like that negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a big thing. I'm curious real quick, like, it's cool that maybe the running brought it out, and I have my own theories on some of that. You know, a lot of time we spend on the trails with our thoughts and being like, wait, maybe I'm not okay. You know, as opposed to people sometimes ask, like, what are you running away from? I'm like, no, I run to like sit in my problems and to sit in my things and work them out. Right.
Yes.
Were there any warning signs that you could share that maybe others, it would help them to hear, like when you realized you needed to ask for therapy yourself? Were there any warning signs that come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the fact that I've probably always been a little bit crazy from day one. Yeah, I started, listen, full disclosure, my mother had mental health issues. And then when she was near end of days, she had a kidney-induced dementia. Kidney problem-induced dementia. And I started recognizing in certain thought patterns, like disordered thought patterns that resembled the disordered thought patterns I'd seen in her over my childhood and adulthood.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to pretend I'm all that terribly introspective. My aunt is a psychiatrist, and she works specifically with individuals experiencing this kind of secondary, like she's uniquely in this field, and she's a researcher in this field. And she had sat me down around 2017. She's like, you can't keep going on like this. She's like, therapists need therapists, art therapists need therapists, people working with, in this kind of trauma-based environment, you have to have a therapist. You cannot do this without therapists. If you're working with clients, you're just going to become completely useless and probably dangerous. And, but I still was like, no, I'm good. I will say Q is one that has always kind of pushed me, like from day one. Like you say, you thought I was together. I knew all the things. Mike came up to me and like, I think it was 2015, 2016. He's like, for this organization to survive, you need help. And we're going to do this. And he went and got Maribel. So having people that are straight talking to me is definitely a big one. Nice. Knowing through the trail running community that the chemical depression happens.
Yeah.
And I'm being really blatantly honest. I knew I was depressed, but because I knew that chemical depression happened because I was an ultra runner, somehow gave me permission to be like, okay, this is so outside of my control. I cannot fix. This is something that is like biologically I can't fix. Gave me the okay, because I've always been the strong one. I don't ask for help. I help everybody else. That's been sort of my role, which is not great. It's not healthy. It oddly was the trail running thing and knowing that this chemical depression is real, knowing you can't just fix it. I mean, it will go away. For anyone who does these kinds of running, don't be scared. It goes away. It's 2 weeks to a month. It's fine. But you do need to talk to someone while you're going through it, because you're going to have disordered thinking. And so you need someone to help you reframe that disordered thinking while you're going through it. And so I'm not going to say I had any epiphanies outside of the fact that it was clear something was like wrong last October after that race. And I had people in my corner in the trail run coming like, we all have, like, you're going to have to do this. You just got it because you're going to be a mess. So no good epiphanies, no self-realization. It was definitely people being like, almost always when I make major changes, because someone who cares about me is like, hey, stop trying to do it alone. That's bad.
Yeah. I've never really thought about running. I mean, obviously I know about the physical benefits of running, but again, just always thought of it as a way to burn calories. And I ran when I was young. My knees can't stand it anymore. So I always just kind of viewed running as something that exhausted me. I never, ever thought about running as a therapeutic process. And because I always put on music when I ran.
Sure.
And I think the music actually took the focus away from what you're describing. And I get the chemicals, the endorphins, the dopamine. I get all that. That's obviously a benefit. But what is when you're done, when you finish a run, you sit down and you say, like, what's going through your mind therapeutically about the value of that run?
I'll say in 3 seconds what happens to me at the end of a big race. During the race, I'm never doing this again. I'm questioning my life choices. What the hell's wrong with me?
Yep.
Then I get to the end of the race and everyone's sitting around and we're taking our shoes off and we're drinking our pickle juice and everyone's talking about what next race are we going to sign up for. So I sign up for another race, like an idiot. And then there's both a sense of elation. When I DNF'd, the couple times I DNF'd, you can tell me all you want that, hey, getting there, starting is the most important piece. No, there's definitely like a woof and a guilt and an anger and you're pissed off at yourself, whatever. You got to redo that one. But there's a sense of accomplishment, of elation, of community. Trail running is very different from road running.
Yeah.
It's a community. It's a family sport. Like it's very much a community activity. And so the community piece, I mean, you get done with the race and everyone's sitting around and they're cheering for you and there's the food and there's everyone's looking at each other's blisters and all the junk. There's a sense of love and accomplishment and pride in everybody else that you saw on the trail. You spent 12, 24, whatever, 48 hours cheering people on. It's a real community and it feels incredible. But it's really important to also, as my therapist continuously reminds me, not to make running my recovery.
Yeah.
Because I'm supplementing one addiction for another. And I'll turn that conversation over to Jeff.
Yeah, I think I was gonna piggyback on that because it is the a potential downfall of turning to running, over exercise, overstraining, going too far into it, one on a physical level, but then also the mental, emotional level. You're, changing your chemical hormones as you do these massive exertions, and it can put you, as you described, in the chemical depression. So I think for me, in my journey with running, sobriety came first, and I had a program. I do a 12-step program. And so I'm very, appreciative of having structure around maintaining that sobriety and having running. I work with a coach. I don't do it alone. I've had a coach since I started doing this for like 4 years ago. And I talk to her about my mental state as much as my physical. So there's times where I'm just I'm pissed off. I'm just you know what? That training run sucked. I'm not happy. And she'll talk me through it and we'll talk about the pros and the cons. So that's one aspect. I go to a physical therapist on a somewhat regular basis just to do a tune up and make sure that I'm not injuring anything. I've got a massage therapist that gives me hardcore deep tissue massage and will let me know also hey, this foot is a little more swollen than it was last time. Minute feedback like that. But it is it's putting the right resources in place and not just I think doing it intelligently and asking for help along the way. The community is fantastic. You get the community when you're out there. At the end of the day, though, only you really know how you're doing inside. You have to be honest with yourself. Yeah.
We just had, I was on a call about crewing, and one of the first questions I asked, and it's a touchy subject, is your runner wants to drop out. How do we know if it's really that they need to drop out, that's an injury, and they got to drop, or they're just making excuses? As the crew, how do you determine which it is? Obviously, the medical tent being a part of this, but that's a real conversation. And it's funny you said you're a massage therapist. My acupuncturist the other day, she's like, you're gonna need to talk to your coach. She's like, you're not doing a 12-hour run on this. I had plantar fasciitis starting.
Yeah.
And so I wrote to my coach. I'm like, I got some plantar fasciitis starting. She's like, okay, I'm gonna pull you at 10 hours.
Yep.
Anyway, I did 12, and she's like, I pulled you at 10 hours. I know, but I wanted to get 40 miles. I didn't have 40 miles yet.
It's still on us.
I have another question because I'm seeing some patterns here. My brother and sister-in-law are fanatical bike riders.
Yeah.
Right. And I've heard people talk about things like boxing or dancing or other forms of physical exertion that they all describe to me as, sort of therapeutic for them. And I'm wondering if the same thing applies in the running.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I would not have made it through COVID without my friends, but without running. And I think that, as Jeff pointed out, now it's funny you mentioned, Mike, you use headphones, so you have music. That is equally therapeutic. You don't need to be sitting there analyzing, self-analyzing, listening to your thoughts. What running with music does, it gets you sometimes at a cadence. It's a lot of music puts you into a cadence that is necessary and gets you to the next tree. I run tree to tree. Once I'm done, like mentally done, like this race, it's just tree to tree till I get my miles. Like at this point, and I need music to get me going. But what music can help you do, what helps me do at least, is not be ruminating in my thoughts. I can be quiet for the first time. Like I have a monkey brain like crazy. Like my ADHD is just, my coach calls me her favorite ADHD runner, and she's tired. Like she has to monitor ultra sign up to see what I did now. And like, she'll take me out of races. And so, my ADHD, running with music sometimes is how I quiet that. And that's a really valid thing. Going for a long walk with the headphones in and just silencing is as therapeutic as running through your thoughts. Because honestly, sometimes you're running through your thoughts, especially the longer the race, it gets a little messy in there. And it may not be as helpful as it could be, because you're going to start, first of all, we're questioning every single life choice we made with every step at this point. And now, and then it starts going down rabbit holes, and it can get a little messy in there. So sometimes being able to really shut down, like with music, I think is healthy. As long as you have some backup bricks to charge your phone.
Happens to me when I'm writing a business-related email. It gets messy in there. We need, for the sake of time, I'm sorry, but we typically never have these conversations, and we don't want to have these conversations without also offering some resources. So I want to pivot for our last few minutes to some of the resources that are out there. Shana, can you tell us about Sasquad, about BTT, and Call Mary? I know you said you have a therapist through them, but
so Sasquad trail running parties is one of the larger trail running groups in New York, New Jersey. She does, I don't know, probably 20 different races, trail parties, as she calls them, a year. It's one of the most inclusive, friendly, open trail racing organizations in the country. She's becoming quite well known. And she also does a ton of clinics around wellness. We have mental health discussions. We have perimenopause and running questions. We have, you name it, how to take care of your feet, how to take care of your body, how to eat. So she has throughout the year a series of webinars that are about wellness too. And you don't have to be a trail runner to join Sasquad and be a part of that. You can be a volunteer, you can be a supporter. This is open to anyone who wants to be part of Sasquad in any type of a meaningful way. Bigger Than the Trail, Tommy started this, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. It's a nonprofit raising money for mental health resources, so we can pay for 8 sessions for people who need it. You do not need to be a trail runner. October 5th, I will be co-directing my first trail race with Kim. Switchbacks, we're trying to get Jeff out for that. And all the resources and money outside of the permit for the park will be going to Bigger Than the Trail. Bigger Than the Trail currently works with Call Mary and with BetterHelp. Both are two of the more major known mental health therapy platforms out there. I was using Call Mary for a long time. My therapist moved to a different one that is supported by insurance. But I found 2 great therapists through Call Mary, actually. I just ended up with mine in the end because we clicked better. One thing I want to say to anyone who's out there, if you use Call Mary or BetterHelp or any of them, you may need to go through 3 to 4 different people before you find the one that works. Don't give up. Follow that process. Be okay with that process. It is so important to take the time to find your match. And they will take the apps I'll talk about that take you through that. Jeff dropped into the studio chat. Simon, Running with Simon, he has a dark side of ultra running. There are some pretty elite ultra runners out there that are now talking about mental health and the physical impacts of ultra running and recovery and addiction. I suggest checking that out. Again, you don't need to be an ultra runner. This is for anybody experiencing any of this. I think what Jeff and I are talking about, we use ultra running, we enjoy ultra running, but you could be a writer, you could be a painter, you could be a musician, anything that is your passion that you're using as a way to make yourself whole is viable. We just happen to be, I'm an artist too, but we just happen to have stumbled into this ridiculous sport. But I think that this conversation can apply to any hobby and passion, and that it's all valid across the board. Life Preservers Project, quick plug. We've always helped survivors from a wellness, mental health, and support perspective. We work with outpatient and inpatient services, client providers in New Jersey and New York, but we also now have Operation Safe Spaces up under us as a full program, which directly talks about bullying and sexual assault, sexual harassment, and providing resources in that. So that is a key part of our programming, isn't just awareness and education, but also looking and helping people and giving resources and a part of that conversation. We're always looking for people to join us. Bigger Than the Trails are looking for people to help. Life Preservers always looking for people to help, whether it's monetary or volunteer. Both are 501c3s. And I think I said it all really fast. I hope you all heard me. I think that's everything.
Really fine. And I'll just share as a closing thought here, because we are out of time. For me, it's about finding a balance. Before I lost my wife, I was hyper focused on work, and that was stressful. And then caring for her was stressful. And since that time, it's about 11 months now. I've found some more interesting things to do. I've taken up photography. I'm listening to more music. I'm more focused on, stopping work at a reasonable hour. And so it's about finding that balance, and that's helped me. Jeff, your closing thought.
That was beautiful, Mike, and Shana. Thanks for so much of the information there. And I agree, the balance. I think what I'm hearing today is we have these interests, these outlets. We have to monitor and look out for when they become too obsessive, maybe when they become too overwhelming, and they get in the way of our other responsibilities. But having these healthy outlets is just so important, and then asking for help along the way, no matter what it is. Therapy, coaches, just having a quick phone call, give a friend a call, see how they're doing, just check in with them, So yeah. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Sean.
I'll end by saying you're not alone. We're never alone. We don't have to be alone.
You stole my line. I'll go this way, because this is, and Jeff, you've got your line, right? But
yeah,
you're not alone. Let's keep showing up for each other. That's really what matters.
Amen. And thank you for joining us on this journey, one step at a time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.